all of our public information, so I deal with a lot with the press. I oversee some of our education programs. We go out all over the state when we're not working drug cases, trying to get into as many schools as we can. A lot of schools don't have time for, maybe an 8-week DARE officer to come in, but if they'll give us 30 minutes in the gym on a Friday, we will take every opportunity we can to talk to kids. And the last 2 weeks, we've been going all over the state of Oklahoma for Red Ribbon Week, and I was just up in this area. Spoke at Prague Middle School and Stroud Middle School this past couple of days. And I also work with our legislators at the Capitol. I'm our legislative liaison, and so the past 23 years spending a lot of time up at the Capitol dealing with new drug laws. And unfortunately, we're always having to play catch up trying to understand what are some of the new problems and get out in front of them as much as we can. And we've got some great partners at the legislature. And I can tell you many of the laws that we've passed here in Oklahoma have gone on to become national models when it comes to addressing some of these serious issues. We saw it with the meth labs back in the 90s when meth cooks started using pseudoephedrine, and we tried so many different laws to try to stop these meth labs, but they kept finding ways around it. And we finally went to our legislative partners and our pharmacies and visited with folks and said, if we can get this stuff out of the gas stations, get it into pharmacies, I think it'll make a difference. And people laughed at us. They laughed at Oklahoma. They said, that's not going to work. Well, within the first 3 months of putting Sudafed in the gas station, getting it out of the gas stations and putting it in pharmacies, meth labs dropped 65% in Oklahoma. It's now been adopted by all 50 states and is part of the federal legislation. So we love working with our partners to try to address some of these issues. It can be tough. New things are coming up all the time. We've been dealing 10 years with all these synthetic potpourris that are popping up in the gas stations that the kids are smoking. It was bath salts, and now, today the kids are vaping. They're vaping marijuana. They're vaping the marijuana oil that is, it's 100 times stronger than the marijuana that was on the streets even 3 or 4 years ago. Some of these concentrates, and now that Oklahoma's legalized it, certainly Bureau of Narcotics is having to deal with a lot of this, and some of these businesses that are coming in and bringing stuff that's stronger than anything we've ever seen before, and it'll be sold right over the counter compared to out on the streets. And so we are really staying busy at Bureau of Narcotics trying to, we've got to stay in our lane. It's legal in Oklahoma, and we've got to accept that. But they're going to be fly-by-night businesses who are going to come in here, think 788 doesn't apply to them, and they're going to start growing on the edge of town and selling untaxed duffel bags full. There's no reason Oklahoma shouldn't expect that, because we've seen that from Colorado in the last 8 years to California 23 years ago when they legalized it. So that's one of the big things we're working on at Bureau of Narcotics is we don't want to be seen as a safe haven for drug traffickers to come to Oklahoma and start growing. They're already here. We spend most of the summer flying around southeast Oklahoma and southwest Oklahoma where these outlaw growers are hitting Indian land and growing thousands of plants that head to the East Coast. And we've shut down a lot of those operations. And it's only going to get worse, I think, under 788, because now you can grow as many plants as you want. There were no restrictions to 788. I mean, even in California, you can only have a certain canopy of plants that you can grow. In Oklahoma, 788 says if you have a commercial grow license, you can knock yourself out and grow as much as you want. And so we're trying to get out in front of that and working with our legislative partners. We've had some meetings at the Capitol this fall. But, at the Bureau of Narcotics, we want to do everything we can to help communities. And it starts with groups like this. Getting your schools involved, getting the press involved, getting people to even understand that there's a problem. I go to communities who do not want to admit they've got a problem because they're worried that it could hurt businesses coming into their town. And then suddenly you got 4 kids overdose at a high school, and suddenly then they want to shut down the whole town and have a community meeting. And oftentimes they wait till it's too late. And I appreciate you all coming together and admitting we got a problem, and we are going to do something about it. That's the key. And so I appreciate you all being here. There's a lot of different things, and we can talk about it throughout the meeting, what we recommend to communities, and one of them obviously is communicating with everybody, getting them involved, talking about getting into the schools, getting in early. Don't wait till they're already in middle school and high school to start talking to these kids, because every day they're being bombarded that marijuana is going to cure cancer, AIDS, glaucoma, it's going to bring in billions of dollars from your state. And people are buying into this stuff, and once these freight trains start coming into your community, you can't slow them down. And so I spend, when I'm at Luther High School, Stroud, Meeker, talking to these kids, I got to spend 30 minutes breaking down their myths before I can share what's going on. These kids think marijuana is the greatest thing that's ever been invented. They don't understand. I've seen in my 23 years of drug enforcement wreck more lives than any other drug because of the path it puts these kids on. You know, when I'm dealing with somebody 40 years old who's a meth addict out here in Potawatomi County, and I asked this guy in the back of the car heading to the county jail, how'd you get started on this path? I already know his answer. Smoking weed with my friends in middle school. It starts out real harmless and benign because these kids think it's no big deal. And before you know it, it's consumed their life and it's now eating up your town. Because let's face it, drugs aren't free. And you know, they can say it's a low-level nonviolent offense. There is so much violence. We could spend the next 2 hours talking about all the violence associated with somebody trying to feed an addiction. I don't care whether it's meth, marijuana, whatever it may be. The copper thefts in your community. You know, they will steal anything that is not nailed down. You know, stolen generators from construction sites, oil field equipment, anything that they can move real quick, a trailer here and there. They will take it from anybody that they can get it from. So property crimes are going to follow the drug crimes, and you all already know that. And we're certainly going to see that, I think, even just with the marijuana legalization. But also one of the things you can do too, and we can't stress this enough, is getting communities to talk when they see something. You know, some of our best cases at the Bureau of Narcotics started out with a phone call from somebody who said, this is probably nothing, but you need to look at this house down the street. You need to look at this guy. We shut down a huge cartel that was operating in western Oklahoma out in a small rural farm community called Thomas. Y'all even know where Thomas is? A lot of people have to search for it on a map. But we had a guy call out there, and they know their community. You all know your community. That's why you're the best resource. And he said, there's some trucks out here that we've never recognized before. They're going to this barn, which it's very tough to find this barn out in a very remote area in that part of the state. He said, there's things going on, a lot of activity late at night. So we got with Thomas Police Chief. We started working surveillance on this barn and ended up shutting down a group out of Juarez, Mexico that was bringing in literally 2,500 pounds in semi-trucks on a weekly basis. That would be unloaded, broken up, and then the shipments going to Chicago and Detroit and Kansas City. And they were working out of a little place called Thomas, Oklahoma. And it was simply a nervous neighbor who saw something that didn't belong in Thomas, Oklahoma. We've seen a lot of those. We ended up busting the brother of the Los Zetas drug cartel, the most powerful drug organization in Mexico. The brother is living on a horse ranch in Lexington, Oklahoma, wiring potentially billions of dollars and laundering it through these horses. We are prime real estate for these groups. We're in close proximity to the border, our highway system. 95% of the drugs imported into the United States are going to come either through Tijuana, Mexico, into San Diego. They're going to come across the Ciudad, Mexico, and El Paso. And those things, I-40 and I-35, are going to bisect in downtown Oklahoma City. So whether it's staying here or just a transshipment point, these people come and they set up shop and they will try to blend in, but you will know who the people are that belong and do not belong here because you know your community. Say something about it. And those can be some of the best cases. Some of you will remember, I believe it was 2008 when Arizona passed a big immigration law that allowed Arizona authorities to pull you over just to check your status. There was a guy that was so powerful to the Sinaloa cartel that they told him to get out of Arizona. They could not afford to get him taken off in Arizona because he was too valuable to their American operations. So they said, go someplace and hide out safe. Guess where he came? Elk City, Oklahoma. Within 2 months, our agency working with the task force out there identified him and arrested him. We don't want them to get a foothold here. They're trying to because of our highway system. And if they're already here, they're already going to move drugs into communities where they can find a market for it. So simple phone calls like that. One of our biggest cases of this was before I started working at the Bureau of Narcotics, happened not far from here, out at Highway 99 at the Seminole exit there. You know that Love's convenience store? I don't think it was Love's back in 1982. I don't know, it may have been a Stuckey's or something. Some of you may know. But a car broke down right there at I-40 and Highway 99. And the guy's kind of going from his car to a payphone at the store. And finally, one of the clerks was getting kind of nervous. They'd asked this guy if he needs help. He wouldn't talk with him. It's kind of very standoffish. And so but this was going on all day long. So finally, they called the sheriff, and the sheriff came out and checked this guy. Said he's acting real suspicious. He called us. We brought a drug dog out, ran it around the guy's car, and ended up getting 7 kilos of cocaine out of the trunk. Well, that was just the beginning. This guy ended up, we interviewed him. He gave up his source out of Florida. We went down to Florida with DEA, worked that case for a couple of years, busted those sources, which led to a source in Mexico, which led to a source in Central America. And it ended up being the case that helped bring down Panama president, Manuel Noriega, the president of Panama, started, and DEA and the FBI had already had some good leads on it, but they said one of the key pieces that brought down Manuel Noriega was the testimony of the driver that was arrested in Oklahoma. It was a simple convenience store clerk who got nervous. So you can make a difference.